Hello and welcome to Taking Over. I am Ol'Ed and Fries, and I'm joined by the one and only, the natural Astrid Pizarro. Astrid, how you doing tonight?
Doing a lot better than NXT was, at least decent tonight.
Yes, Parrish. That is the name of the show.
How are you?
I'm good. I enjoyed Latino Appreciation Night because that's what it really felt like tonight. I mean, think about it. In the opening few moments of the show, we get Dominic and Rhea backstage. So that's one. After that, we get in the Bentley. We get arriving Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio, 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. We then get a match between Axiom, 4, and Mustafa Ali. Later on in the night, we're going to hear from Los Lotharios. Mm-hmm. That's 5 and 6. We see Roxanne at one point. That's 7. Mm-hmm. And then we have, the main event. So, I mean, it might as well be for NXT Latino Appreciation Night, because I don't know if there's any other ones on the roster that they didn't feature tonight. Other than Valentina and
Electra will
Lisa.
be the other ones.
And Electra and Lola.
Yeah.
They did pretty good. And they got 7 on one show in 2 hours. That's more than any of the other shows are going to do.
That's true.
So.
Yeah.
But no, it was a fun night of NXT tonight. At least I thought it was. I enjoyed myself. Like I said, we start from the top. We got Rhea and Dom backstage with a promo last night at Raw as they get ready to come. Like I said, we also have Rey in the back of a pretty dope Bentley. I've never seen a Bentley that has the look of like an SUV. It looked pretty cool. You figure Rey would sport, a better Bentley, but it is what it is. He's got all those kids to take care of. He's got, Dom. He's got to make sure that he supports Dom through all this crap that Dom's going through, and then Aaliyah. I mean, Aaliyah has fancy taste. I mean, she was dating Buddy at one point, who's now with Rhea, and that's a whole circle and ball of wax that we don't want to get into. Dominant Fisher Price lowrider, that'd be great. We have Barry Monkey coming in saying, "Hello, everyone. If I was Garza or the other one, I'd wish I'd not featured on the show." You know what? I liked that segment. We'll get to that later. I really enjoyed that segment a whole hell of a lot. But our first match of the night is Axiom versus Ali, and I thought this was really fun. Lots of good back and forth between the two of these guys.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything fantastic for 90% of the match. I'm not calling him Scripps anymore. He's Reggie. I'm not down with the streets. I don't know him, so I guess I have to call him Reggie. Is that what it is? Is that the rule? I forget.
Yeah.
I forget if the rule is supposed to be one way or the other. I don't care. He's Reggie. Reggie, Lucian Price, and Bronco Nima all come down at one point. But again, in true NXT fashion, they come out, don't do anything, just sort of stand there, and then casually walk away, and nobody mentions the big hand.
Yeah, I think the only thing that really happened was that Axiom got distracted at one point, but having Reggie there when he first noticed him. But other than that, there was nothing really anything involving all of them.
Ali even got distracted at one point with them just standing out there on the ringside area. Yeah. But the finish of the match comes when Ali goes ahead and accidentally grabs Axiom's mask and it starts to come off. Now, I will make a note of this. I didn't notice this. I had to go back and watch this after she asked. Mama Fries noticed something that I didn't notice. Ooh. Axiom loosened his mask on the mat before the spot. About 2 minutes before the spot. She goes, "What's he doing with his mask?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I went back. And he's grabbing at the back of his mask and he's loosening the straps so that it can come up. Because as all luchadors know, if you've been a masked wrestler, the one thing that you don't want to do is... She really is a saint. I don't deserve such a wonderful woman in my life. But yes, he loosened the mask so that the spot could happen. Little things like that are nice. It was done. It was done. I didn't notice it, and I'm watching the match and going, I missed that part.
Yeah, me too.
What did you think of this match? I know Axiom was one of your favorites.
Yeah, I thought it would be more like a high flying kind of thing. I expected more like that back and forth between both of them being high flyers. And we had limited commercials as well. So I thought that we'll see a lot more of that, especially being the opener, thinking this is a way to hook the crowd to stay watching tonight. It wasn't that, but I like that they had a good back and forth. They're always reversing each other's moves somehow. And it just at the point was which one are they reversing now? Because that's how I felt at one point. But, overall, I like the match. And I already had a feeling and knew in my mind that Ali was going to win it. It was just a matter how he was going to win. And then I like that even after he wins, he just, says to the camera, whoever wins that main event tonight, I'm next. And I like pointing that out after, even after the match is over, even without a microphone, just looking at the camera, telling us about it. I like that detail about him doing that before he keeps celebrating.
Yeah. And again, you mentioned little limited commercials tonight. I thought that this made the show flow so much better. The in-ring action wasn't as broken up a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. And it felt like the matches got more time. I don't know how much time this match really got, but it felt like it got 10, 15 minutes, which was nice. I really enjoyed it. We then have, as Ashley and I were talking pre-show, a multitude of young people laid out in the back, one of which being Ika Manjiro, and then others. We tried to figure out if we could identify some of them. We thought we could, but we're just going to leave it be. It's a variety of people who have been involved in the Schism segments the last couple weeks. It's Performance Center people. And then, of course, Ikemen Jiro, which means we're getting some kind of Ikemen versus Joe Gacy match coming up at some point, right? Like, for some dumb reason, we're getting Jiro versus Gacy, right?
I don't want it. But probably.
Joe Gacy says he doesn't care what it takes. He will find the creeds tonight, even if it means turning NXT upside down, which is the name of his finishing move. The upside down. We get Kelani versus Blair. I have 2 words for this match. Extended squash.
I feel bad because I feel like I understand where you're coming from. But I feel like even with that, the only thing I disliked about the match is how silent the crowd was. Because at one point there's somebody trying to cheer for Kelani, they don't know how to cheer for her. Like, let's go Kelani, and it just doesn't go with the rhythm. But I know they're trying. And I can hear them like lowly trying to go for that. And like nobody picked up on it, so you can hear kind of a little bit low as the match is going on. But other than that, it's quite silent, unfortunately. And I was like, but the match isn't bad. I like the match. I love Kalani's performance. I know she only messed up on the head scissors at one point, so instead of going around, she just landed. But they had a good back and forth. I feel like Kelani was showing more of what a badass should be compared to Lyra at this point, because she kept going for Blair, not giving her time to like breathe or have any distance there. She kept going right after her after everything that she could. Um, the only thing that really that's eventful, to put it like that, will be after the ending. When once Blair wins, that we have Dana coming in, taking off her belt. She's going against Blair, and then Blair just able to slide off out of the ring. And then when Kelani kind of taps on Dana's shoulder, Dana turns around with the belt in her hand, like she's about to hit her, which caused the crowd to go, "Oh!" That I'm like, finally they're loud. It's what made me think about this, and then that's when people started going like, "Oh, she's probably gonna turn heel on her soon." But that's the only thing that happened that was like a highlight in this match or in this segment, if you want to call it. But it's the only time I heard the crowd louder than they were during the match, unfortunately.
I mean, they've given us no reason to care about Kelani Jordan. Blair Davenport doesn't get a ton of crowd participation in any of her matches. And, well, Dana Brooke is charisma vacuum. My friend Rob comes in and says, heel Dana equals best Dana. There is no best Dana. There's only bad Dana and no Dana. And I'm sorry. When we get to her promo later on, we're going to talk about bad Dana, because my God, did she butcher that promo? Oh, that was a terrible idea. Just that, but like you said, I gave it 2 words: extended squash. It was good. There was nothing. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to write home about. It was give Kelani some spots to look impressive, while Blair Davenport carries her through the match. Because, like she says, it's her 3rd televised match. She's not supposed to be good, so we're not sitting here and critiquing every little move. The whole point of this match and of her character is that she's learning, she's developing. Not only is she in NXT as developmental, but that's the point of this particular character, is that she's learning and developing. Mm-hmm. So you get to forgive her for some of the mistakes that she might make in the match. You get to have this little back and forth where you get to give her a little bit of grace. The fans get to give her a break, which is nice. Because God knows the IWC is not the greatest community in the world, as Dana will talk about later. But, no, Kelani did fine here. I wasn't unimpressed with her. But at the same time, it was 5-6 minutes, relatively quick. Wasn't exactly a squash match because it didn't take all of 2 or 3 minutes. I feel a squash match is basically no offense for the person who's getting beaten down. 2 to 3 minutes and the match is over. So in this, it's an extended squash. It's a showcase for Kelani Jordan, but all we're doing is putting Blair Davenport over and giving her something to do.
Yeah.
We get Von Wagner backstage, and we got Parrish in the comments saying, "Vacuum serves a purpose. How dare you insult vacuums that way?"
Yeah.
And we have Barry. Bland and inoffensive was my thoughts on the first 2 matches. They weren't bad, but didn't care. Would they have been any better if you had Johnny Swinger about there? Because bland and inoffensive is essentially what Johnny Swinger is to me. Like, I don't care about Johnny Swinger. He's funny, but when he wrestles, I give no craps about him. And the only reason why I do that is because Barry's an Impact fan. So I have to relate it to Impact in order to have the best. But if you were talking about about an AEW match, you would look at me and you would compare it to something in NXT because that's what I watch.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk to Barry, I compare it to things in Impact because that will make the best communication between the two of us. And how dare you? And by the way, all the three of the five people we've talked about are much better wrestlers than Johnny Swinger.
That's true.
Parrish, bland and inoffensive is Dwayne Johnson comparing whatever the fuck Dana Brooke tries to be. Dana Brooke, I will give Dana Brooke this every time. She tries so hard to do this job. All right, moving on. I agree. She gets that you tried medal, but that's about it. Von Wagner. We get a Von Wagner segment where we go ahead and Von Wagner is asked
wait.
I saw it.
I'm sorry. Huh? What? Eddie Edwards of all people? No, I'm out.
Like, I mean,
Eddie Edwards is not bad. Johnny Swinger's boring. And
no, but he's saying bland and inoffensive is Eddie Edwards now. Eddie Edwards now. American Wolves Eddie Edwards is a sight to behold. And if you haven't seen American Wolves Eddie Edwards and you only know this current version, you're missing out because honestly, this current version of Eddie Edwards is the worst version of him that I've ever seen. I think he's trying to say he's not wrong. I don't know why heel's not wrong. But anyways, yeah, he's. Von Wagner. We're going to talk about Von Wagner for a minute here. Von Wagner talks about how Bron, picked him apart and started making fun of him. He goes, people have been making fun of me all my life. It gets me down. Yeah, it hurts. It sucks. I don't like it. But you know what? Von's going through a table today. And then I see the shirt and I'm like, oh God, he's got a fucking catchphrase.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't like the shirt.
He's going to get tabled. I don't like it.
No.
And as if you haven't seen it, Denise Salcedo, look up what ass getting tabled means on Urban Dictionary, and I don't think WWE did their research.
No, clearly they did it. Nothing new there.
What? WWE doesn't do research? Are you sure? I mean, we have Gunther. Gunther's great.
Sure.
The prison used for Dominic Mysterio's vignettes is perfect.
Yeah.
There was nothing Auschwitz about it at all whatsoever.
Incredible.
We have Noam versus Tyler Bate. Astrid, go ahead and talk to me about Noam Dar versus Tyler Bate, right?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Do you have anything more? It was amazing.
She's coming.
Yeah.
I will look it up incognito just in case. Yeah.
If Von doesn't want people making fun of him, it's not that he doesn't want them making fun of him. He's okay with it. He understands it. But it still hurts, which is fine. He's being vulnerable. The beast is being vulnerable. It's a nice new step. He's not saying you can't make fun of me. How dare you make fun of me? I'm going to hurt you because you made fun of me. It's just being honest. Because Robert Stone was like, we don't care what Von had to say. And he's like, no, we don't have to do that. We can be real. It was a good segment between the two of them and Mackenzie, who's there.
Yeah.
I love Mackenzie, but half the time she just asks the generic question and just sits in the... Like, sometimes she's part of the conversation. Sometimes she just asks question and just stands there. This was an ask question and stand there portion.
Yeah, it really was. So
we got HPC Bad Guys joining us. Thank you very much for jumping in and saying hello. We appreciate it very much. I have down here, Noam Dar has a bottle of Noam special stuff in his corner that they were giving him. It's a water bottle full of, I'm assuming, water.
Sure.
What, do you think he's juicing? Taking steroids right there on live television?
No kidding.
In the first round, Vic Joseph is trying to explain to Booker T about how the cup isn't Noam Dar's. Noam, what a great champion. Oh, Noam was great. Oh, I love Noam Dar tonight. Vic's trying to bring up to Booker T to get him to understand about how delusional Noam Dar is. And he brings up a great early 2000s reference of Together, where he talks about Noam Dar can't do his calculus. And if anybody hasn't heard it, just look up Together, and you plus me equals us calculus. It's a dated reference, and I don't think Vic understood what he was talking about when he made the comment, but good for Noam Dar. First round, uneventful, nothing really happens. Tyler wins an early fall in the second round to go up 1-0. In the fourth round, Tyler goes ahead and jams his leg when he tries to do something, which gives Noam the my buddy, best song, You Plus Me Equals Us. It's something. I introduced it to Astrid during the show, and
yeah, that's one of the few ones I did not know about. And I wish I still didn't.
You're welcome. We get our first commercial break at around 8:30 into the show. So about half an hour into the show, we get our first commercial break, which is fine. With the exception that it takes up the entire third round, it's a fine thing. We get Noob and Co saying hello. Hello, Noob. We got the Conspirator saying, oh, he's saying what's up to Noob. No. And there we go. That's the one I wanted. Hello, it's my favorite duo on Ol'Ed.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah,
no, wait. I was going to say this one. I was going to say there's a reason why I didn't go for computer science. I don't like math. So we're even.
Yes. But it takes up most of the third round is the commercial break. The fourth round is, like I said, where he tweaks his knee and that they put him in the knee bar. And he stays in the knee bar for a good 30 seconds trying to reach the ropes. And then he goes ahead and I love how we're talking about how we love Mav. Oh, it's great. If I could play that video, I would, but it would get us demonetized. It would get us all kinds of issues. We can't do it. It'd be bad. But it's fun. Noam wins the fourth round. Early in the fifth round, though, it goes back and forth. And then, out of nowhere, a roll-up gets Tyler the win, where and this is very convenient by Alicia Taylor, and I want to make sure I get the words exactly right the way she did it. And he wins Noam Dar's Heritage Cup. Those are the official words from NXT about what was going on here. Because Booker was living in fucking delusional world tonight. Oh my God. I love Vic Joseph. I think
Does
Vic
that surprise
Joseph is
you,
great.
though?
Yes, because so in NXT, starting with the pandemic, we've had some of the best announced teams in the world on NXT. We had Mauro Ranallo, Nigel McGuinness. We had Mauro Ranallo and Beth Phoenix. We had Mauro, Beth, and Wade Barrett. We then had Vic and Wade Barrett.
I missed them.
I think we had Vic, Wade Barrett, and Beth Phoenix at one point too, for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. In a dark day of NXT, one day we did have Byron Saxton and some jabroni on commentary. Remember that one? Remember that bad episode of... Oh, yeah, it was a bad episode of NXT where neither Wade nor Vic could make the show, and they had jabronis on the show. That was a bad one. And Parrish is right. Booker T's becoming the Dana Brooke of commentary.
And this is the reason I said from the get-go when it was announced that I didn't want Booker T in this commentary table because I just can't take it.
But no, half this match was trying to explain things to Booker T, which is just the worst thing about the shows. Because it takes away from the show. Because I get that Booker T wants to be a heel commentator, but having to explain the delusional heel commentator just makes it bad. As Parrish says, shucky ducky, shut up, Booker. Can we not get Matt Camp up here to do color commentary? Can we not get... You know what? You know who has just announced that doctors have told them that they shouldn't wrestle and that they might need to become a color commentator? You know who'd be great on NXT next to Vic Joseph? Big E. Talk about giving him the ability to learn. That would be good too. But what about Big E? Big E is potentially going to have to move to a commentary position anyways. If you want to teach him how to do commentary, I guarantee you the NXT fan base will be gentle with him because they adore him.
I think
Tell
he
me
might be
I'm
a little
wrong.
bit distracting at first, though, because you know how he is. He's one of those people that he cannot stay still, probably at the desk. So
You
if I
mean
see him doing too many things,
more or less distracting than having to explain to Booker T what the hell's actually going on in the ring? Remember, Booker T
yeah,
didn't know who Isla Dawn was for the
yeah,
first 3 months that she was in NXT.
I know, yeah,
And if he
yeah. I think,
can't wrestle, it's not a bad idea. You're not going to
mm-hmm,
put him on Raw or SmackDown. We've just made those teams. So he's not going there anytime soon.
mm-hmm,
So if you're going to have him learn, why not have him learn on NXT?
yeah,
Because if any fan base is going to give him the benefit of the doubt, it's that fan base.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you give me 5 was the NXT fan base. There's no.
I know.
All right, we're gonna disregard all Parrish's decisions for alternative commentary.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we have a new NXT North Heritage Cup champion, um, which is a whole another bottle of worms. Ashley, go ahead and talk to us about Hank and Tank and the dumbest tag team name on God's green earth.
I feel bad for them at this point after this. Um, Hank is just telling Tank that he has a name for the tag team, so he's just like, "Give it to me, late. I mean, which is it?" He goes, "Smash Mouth." And he goes, "Eh." But then we have Schism arrive, just asking them where the creeds are, which is basically what Casey was saying, that he's going to turn NXT upside down tonight. So they don't know what they are, so they get attacked while they're backstage de- debating their name. But I feel bad for them, that's why.
I don't. I think that they got exactly what they deserved. Um, you come up with a stupid name like Smash. Smash Mouth is already a terrible enough name for a band.
I was going to say, isn't that copyrighted at this point?
Very much so. But it's a terrible enough name for a band, let alone trying to put it on an NXT television as a tag team. Just
Yeah.
no. A whole bunch of no. Um, Barry Monkey says, oh, hold on. I'm trying to turn my air conditioner on. It's hot in here. Barry Monkey says, it's only a matter of time until Von Wagner's on commentary. They tried everything else to get him over. He's getting over. Like, let's lay off the whole Von Wagner. I get it. Von Wagner's not everybody's cup of tea. And I'll agree. I led the barrage against Come Tuesday Von Wagner.
Yeah.
However, they found something that's working. The fans are behind him. He's getting better at cutting his own promos.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Stone is being less of a necessity and more of an advantage to him as an additional piece, which is far from what it was 6 months ago, 8 months ago. They've done a good job getting him over.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it going to lead to anything? Probably not. I don't think he's talented enough to really go anywhere. But you know what? I'm going to take the wins for now. WWE's managed to get us to cheer him and actually like him, which is a hell of an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody once told me the world is going to roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool. Trust me, Parrish. We all know that you're not the sharpest tool in the shed. You don't need to talk about that. We get Ilya Dragunov backstage where he says he's headed to the ring and he expects Trick Williams to meet him there. Well, Trick Williams said he wanted to meet you in the ring, so I don't think you're going to have to convince him too hard. Like, this is what Trick wanted, so. We then get commercial break number 2. It's about 15-30 minutes on. It's about 15-20 minutes after the first one, but again, we're almost an hour into the show. And we've had 2 commercial breaks. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Not going to argue about that.
Mm-hmm.
We get Mello backstage in the locker room pacing till Dijak comes in and says he wants to get a shot at the title. And before anything else can happen, Wes Lee comes storming in like he owns the locker room again. And Mello says, I don't even want to talk to you. I don't want to deal with you. Just get the hell out of my face. And Dijak and Wes Lee go back and forth about who's in the title picture, who's out of the title picture. And then Dijak just walks away. And Wes Lee goes to turn to talk to Carmelo Hayes, and Hayes is long gone at this point. Yeah. Or I thought he was gone, but wait, Hayes, he was still talking to somebody. I don't know who he was talking to off camera, but he was still looking at and talking to somebody before he gets absolutely destroyed by Dijak. Yeah. It's a good segment to tell us that there are multiple contenders for the championship, that there is no number one contender. I have a feeling we're getting to a number one contenders match between Dijak and Wesley at
Yeah, they announced
Heatwave.
it.
Oh, did they?
No, they announced it for next week, and then the winner faces Carmella Heatwave.
Oh, okay. So Carmelo wins at Heatwave. Got
it. Yeah.
Would you guys like Fire Springs? Then would you guys like to see a championship scramble in NXT? I'm a proponent of the championship scramble. I love that match. I think, but the thing is, NXT has their version of the championship scramble, the Iron Survivor.
Sure.
So I don't know if we do it again so soon. But that kind of fills the role of the championship scramble. It's a 25-minute match. You got multiple people going in there. You got people competing, and you just say the championship's on the line, and whoever gets the most falls in X amount of time wins.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you give the champion as the champion's advantage. You give the champion the choice. What number do you want to come in at? Mm-hmm. So, because I think that's the fairest thing for the champion in that kind of a situation, if you're going to put the title on the line in that kind of a thing. Because in the Iron Survivors the first time, there was no champion's advantage because it was all for number one contendership. Mm-hmm. Whereas in this one, I think if you're going to do like Mello, Dragunov, Trick, Wesley, and Dijak, mm-hmm. you could have those 5 guys in the match and go, okay, mm-hmm. Mello, you're the champion. You get to call your number. What one do you want? 1 through 5. Because you go, obviously he'll take 5. Well, no, that means you have the least amount of time in the ring to get mm-hmm. pinfalls. You might not want to go 5. Yeah. Maybe you want to go 3 or 4. Honestly, mm-hmm. I think I would choose 3 or 4.
Yeah, definitely in the middle.
He also brings up Iron Survivor for the NXT Championship, do the scramble for the women's title. No, like I said, I don't think you have both. I think if you're going to do a version of the scramble, just do the Iron Survivor. Yeah. And by the way, the NXT since its inception has one way of crowning new number one contenders for the women's championships. It's called the Battle Royal. And by the way, I guarantee, based on the Tiffany interview, we're getting a Battle Royal at Heatwave.
I was thinking that too. I was thinking we're going to get a Battle Royal sometime soon, just to get more contenders, because they keep mentioning during the matches tonight.
They're positioning themselves for the number one. Yeah.
Whoever wins could get that position to be number one contender. I was like, so you don't have one yet. You just waited to see what happens next. Good to know.
Yeah. But like I said, I don't think you can do both. There's no room for us. You don't want too many of the same type of match. So you don't want to do, like if you have a scramble type match, you don't do a second type of scramble match. You just do the same thing. So I think what could end up happening is you could have 2 Iron Survivors. But again, if you're going to do Iron Survivor, that's a big pay-per-view. That's a no mercy type match. Mm-hmm. You don't do that at Heatwave on a Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. Because that's an hour of your show right there with those 2 matches. Mm-hmm. It's 50 minutes and then commercial breaks on either side of it. And there's your first hour of the show or your last hour of the show, however you want to book it out. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you do both a championship scramble but I mean, to each their own, and you never know. Again, that's my opinion. I don't know if you have any other opinions. Do you even remember what the championship scramble is?
I mean, basically the same thing, but it just like you said, I feel like they have their version of it. So why change it back after you introduce something? To me, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. And like you said, it's just like they take so much time as it is that it's something that you put more like a PLE type of match, not on a Tuesday when it's going to take 1 hour for the girls, 1 hour for the guys, and then we get interviews and stuff in between backstage. I feel like it won't give it the time it needs if you do it just on a regular Tuesday. So I think it's best if you do it on one of the PLEs somehow, if you do it.
Yeah, but if you're going to do one of those matches, it's specialty matches. It's tough, I don't know. I think we just have to agree to disagree. Yes, King of the Ring is different from Elimination. Yes, because they're 2 different types of matches. The Scramble match and the Iron Survivor are essentially the same type of match. Yes, they're different, pair. Anyways, moving on. Ilya comes to the ring. He blames Trick for losing at the pay-per-view. He tells Trick he wants Trick to come out there. Trick says, look, I know you blame me for losing at the pay-per-view, but you're the one who lost to Mello. He's like, collateral damage. Sometimes things just happen in the wrestling ring. And he goes, I didn't hit you with the championship. You ran into the championship.
That was my favorite part. You ran into the title.
You ran into it. It's your fault. You're the one who got angry. You're the one who went ahead and did this. And he's poking the bear, or in this case, the dragon, trying to get the Mad Dragon to come out and give him a match. Because, ironically, Ilya wants to talk to Trick, but I don't think Ilya wants to fight Trick. I think he's wasting, because as Ilya would basically put it, he's wasting his time. He's already fought Trick and beat him down. He doesn't need to do it again. Yeah. But Trick's like, no. And so I put in my notes, Trick wants X match, because he's like, I want to prove this, I want to prove that in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, he's going to give us a specialty match. And then they just like,
I thought I missed it.
Yeah, I thought I did too. I had to go back and listen. I'm like, nope, there's no specialty match.
It's like, here, I won this match against you. And I'm like, which is it?
I thought it was going to be Fight Pit. To be perfectly honest, I thought it was going to be Fight Pit.
I was waiting for him to give me a little bit more clues. And then he goes, yeah, I won the match against you. He wait, and I'm like, okay, which is it? I still don't know. I'm like, did he think he said it? He did it, and that's what happened. I was wondering if that was a mistake or that was made on purpose. If he did that on purpose or not, because it seems kind of bizarre. How do you keep mentioning like I want this match with you, but you don't mention what the match is though? I don't know.
Apparently, he just wants a match. I thought he wanted a specific match because it sounded like he was gearing up to ask for a specific type of match and then doesn't.
Yeah.
We get Bron. We get Bron Breakker, not Bron. Bron Wagner. Bron Breakker walking backstage. But first, nice to see her again on NXT. Kelly Kincaid. Kelly Kincaid back on NXT. She's not normally here, is she?
No, she's been like rarely like that, but
like she does Level Up and she does like digital exclusives, but she typically doesn't do on the show stuff. That's normally a Mackenzie thing.
Yep.
But Kelly Kincaid's back there, and she goes ahead and asks Bron about what Von Wagner said, and he asks what he said. He goes, ha ha, yeah, no, I don't care, and walked away. I mean, for him it is. Parrish says do it straight up and just let the match build. I agree, but I don't have no problem with it being a match, just a straight match. It just seemed like Trick was going to ask for something special, and then didn't.
It's like we were waiting for the name of the match or the type of match he wanted. He just never said it, so we're like, now maybe, but no.
Ilya Dragunov is pretty much Ivan Drago in that segment. Trick is getting the Apollo Creed ending anyway. I don't know if they're going to kill him on screen. That seems a bit harsh. Don't know if they're going to kill somebody on screen. I know people don't like Trick, but if he dies, he dies. Seems a bit harsh.
This is not Impact, okay?
Yeah, only Impact kills people. And when's the last time WWE killed somebody on screen? No, don't answer that.
I was going to say, you don't want
to. We're not going to. Oh, shit. Put a note in here to edit the 35-minute mark so I can actually take that out of the YouTube cut. It's like, don't want that in there. This is when we get commercial break number 3. And we come back to Astrid's favorite segment, my least favorite segment. So, Astrid, I'm going to let you talk about this.
Oh, my God. I need a moment to recover from this one. No, I love this moment. Just we have Roxanne backstage just talking to Rey, and he tells her about the Great American Bash. It's like, oh, like I like the match and how it went. You know what the next thing is? And she's like, yeah, I know what the next thing will be. And I like having her giving her like that encouragement and that support. And I love how even then instead they just like level into each other right there in their height too. And then he excuses himself and he goes over to Thea of all people, which I was not expecting when it was out of her at first. No comments, sir. Hold off. I know you don't like it, but wait. I'm sorry. Barry just threw me off. Impact himself has died 4 times. Okay. But anyway, he's talking to Thea, telling her about the loss, and just like he's like, I know what it's like to be an underdog. Just take that moment and uplift yourself. And he's like, you will do better in the future, and then you'll be champion. Just be patient. And then she's like, can I ask you a question? I was waiting for her to ask him for some advice about her situation. And she goes, do you still love Dom even after everything he's doing? I'm like, Why would you ask him that? If I was a wrestler and had a moment with Rey Mysterio, I would not be asking about I'm sorry. That's the only thing that threw me off about her. And then he just like contemplates it for a moment. He just, I know he's in a, with not a good, great company right now, and I understand what's going through him right now. But he's gonna understand sooner or later who his real family is. But then he just leaves, and then we get Andre Chase and Duke Hudson. He's like, "Oh, you just talked to Rey Mysterio, the Hall of Famer." No, now you can tell me.
So I have a lot on this segment, believe it or not, because when I hate something as much as I do Thea Hale, I tend to take big notes on some of her stuff. So we have Roxanne talking backstage to Rey. That's fine. And then I have in my notes, he goes and wastes his time talking to Thea Hale. Thea's starstruck and can't stand out the fact that she's Thea Hale, even though he addresses her by name. He literally calls her Thea, so she knows who she is, and she still introduces herself as Thea.
Yeah.
She's annoying. Rey tells her to breathe, talks to her about being the ultimate underdog and about how, that he can see the heart inside of her and that if she believes in herself and be patient, that she too could be champion. She then asks, as you said, if he still loves Dom. And here's Rey's exact quote. That was the side that Rey gave, not me. He doesn't like who his son has become right now. He's made some bad choices and he's hanging with the wrong people. But hopefully someday he will realize who his real family is. They go ahead and part ways. Chase and Duke come over and say, "Oh, how great was it that you were talking to Rey Mysterio?" And she goes, "Yeah, unlike you, he wouldn't throw in the towel," and storms off. Now, I don't understand where she got the idea that just because he still loves Dominic, that he wouldn't have thrown in the towel.
But maybe because he's not giving up, in a way.
It's a stretch. It's a big stretch.
I know, but that's the only thing I can think of.
She's dumb enough to go to Chase U instead of going to a real university, so it is what it is. I loved Rey talking to you. It's amazing. No. Actually, it is great. It's great to see, because these are the types of things that happen backstage at wrestling shows all the time. All the time. She's young and she isn't always right. Hey, the internet, did you hear that? No, I agree. It's great to see veterans helping out the young stars. Personally, I wish it wouldn't have been Thea Hale. I personally wish it would have been somebody that I appreciate a little bit more. But I do like the idea that it's Roxanne Perez in the beginning, and they were going to go and do something. I'm curious what they were going to do. Did you hear what they wanted to we got part of the conversation. They were going to go somewhere, and he says, "Hold on, I have to go do something first." So it wasn't the match with being a Dragon Lee side in that match either.
No idea.
We then get the Bron Wagner match. Bron versus Vaughn. This is where I'm going to go ahead and put up one of Barry's comments from earlier, because this is where I agree with it, to the point where me and Astrid have no notes for this match. These first three words are the things that me and Astrid would say about this match. It was bland and inoffensive.
Sounds accurate.
I can't tell you a damn thing that happened with it, because
all I know was a spear and a pinfall, and then that's it from the match.
Yeah. I have no idea what happened during the match. I remember the ending. We're going to go back to Parrish again. Love or hate Thea, the fact that there's emotion behind. No, I agree. They're doing a great job building a new star. They're building a star. Whether I think she's got staying power or not, I can't deny that they're trying to build a star. And that's a good thing. Again, half of this is just kayfabe that I just want to hate her.
It's okay. If you go to Ali's YouTube account and you go under the videos, you'll see a clip of Ed admitting that he likes Thea. You're welcome, people.
I don't think you'll ever see that clip.
Oh, yes.
Vaughn puts Bron to the table. All of the candy goes all over the place. The internet starts asking questions that were already answered about 6 weeks ago when I asked the question the first time we saw the candy go flying as to why the candy's there. And now apparently the entire internet wants to ask the same question I asked 6 weeks ago. But Asked and answered. Vic actually answered the question on the air one week where he explained it. It was something with Corey Graves, and Corey told him to make sure that he keeps candy by the table. I can't remember if he's diabetic or if he just needs it to
I think
focus.
I think it's to focus on the blood sugar, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. The internet's come up with a bunch of different reasons. I have no idea which ones are true. But then, too bad he's not here. Oh, hold on. Also, Ed, she's not even real Irish. Why the hate? Yeah, it's fine. You know, I was cheering for for Finn Balor this weekend, and he failed. So, you know, is what it is. When Braun attacked Vaughn with a chair last week, the chair was the most charismatic. It really was. It really is. But speaking about good things, I wish Mark Talks Wrestling was here, because this is the segment he's been asking for months. Months! Yeah. Understanding a little bit more about Eddie Thorpe. Also, Mel, this is your favorite segment, so if you're here, go ahead and drop your heart, because I know that you're going to love this segment. Mm-hmm. Eddie Thorpe comes out, and he says when he needs grounding, he comes to the woods. And right now he's come to the woods to isolate and listen to his bruja, or his life force. But today, he's not here to recenter himself. He's here because he's furious. Because twice he's felt Dijak's boot. And the last time he was in the ring with Dijak screwed up his shoulder by going ahead and ramming him into the shoulder. I'm like, okay, this is good. We're getting a little bit of development. We're understanding what his culture means to him and how it applies to his character. We're getting good stuff here. He talks about how when he comes out here and he sits under the stars and he recenters, refocuses himself and readjusts himself, that he goes ahead and he can connect with his ancestors, and he thinks about his ancestors. And he talked about, I believe it was Running Bull. I think it was Running Bull that he talks about here, where he talks about pokahe, which means to move forward without fear. And he says that his new mantra now is pokahe, to continue moving forward without fear. Because if he has the pokahe, that's what's going to be able to get him past Dijak. And I'm like, finally, 6 months now, we finally get. Now, granted, we still have no idea what all the DJ crap's about, but at least we're getting a little bit more with his Native American roots and things like that, which is nice. Parrish jumping in saying it's the blood sugar, KOR type 1, and Bobby Fish always carried an inhaler for him and put it in the turnbuckles or areas for Kyle O'Reilly. I love how they all care about it. It's heartwarming to hear. So there you go. I wasn't sure. Like, I remember he said it. He mentioned it that Corey Graves was the one who told him just to have a bucket of candy at the table. Yeah. And I wasn't. And I knew that if it's candy, it's typically because of blood sugar, but not always. Yeah. Because, like I said, a lot of people chew on the candy to help them focus and keep their mind right by having a repetitive action that they can keep doing over and over and over again. It's one of my ADD techniques to help me focus, is that I chew on things. So I have a lot of chewing gum around my desk at work. We get Dom and Rhea backstage, and Lyra comes in and she talks about how she did what Rhea wanted, which is exactly what Rhea wanted. It's about manipulation. And she looks right at Dominic. It's about manipulation. Foreshadowing. But she goes ahead and she talks about how that Rhea manipulates people, that she's the reason why Dom's champion, and she's the reason why he keeps his championship, and that maybe tonight she won't do anything. And Rhea tries for a lot of that match. She tries not to do anything.
Yeah.
Perry says it's the sugar that's important to help with the insulin. Yeah, no, it's absolutely. Somebody who's diabetic, the sugar does help keep the insulin levels. For him, it's obviously that his sugar gets too low as opposed to too high. The insulin shots are typically because your sugar gets too high. If you have constantly having to have sugar on hand, it's because for some reason, one way or the other, your sugar starts to go too low. And that's one of the reasons why somebody would need to carry sugar on hand. Parrish also says it's all about the manipulation and how you play. I mean, whatever works for Rhea, works for Rhea. If you got it, flaunt it. If you can manipulate men with it, good for you.
But I like the point of, like, not only when she says it, she looks up at Dom and he looks back like, oh, who are you talking about? And she's like, you use people. And she's like, practice what you preach. Does mommy have to come to the rescue? And I like that part of it because you can tell like even when she's outside, she's like kind of like screaming. She's like holding herself because she doesn't want to do anything about it, but she does in the end.
Yeah. We get our fourth commercial break of the night here. And again, it's really nice. We have our fourth break, and it's pretty decently late into the show. I want to say we're about 9:15, 9:30 at this point, which is unheard of. We haven't had break, come back, break, come back. It's I wish they would do this more, but again, the more that we get these better TV deals, the more of these big name stars, the less we're going to see things like limited commercial breaks. Because if advertisers are paying more for spots and the network's paying more for the programming, it means they're going to want to get more back for it, which means they're going to have to run higher priced ads, which means we're not going to get picture in picture, which means we're not going to get limited commercials nights for NXT. Like, could you imagine them trying to do this for Raw?
So first we get health class, and now we get advertisement. Sure. Where's
Yeah.
where's your CSU certificate at this point?
Yeah. We also have Paris. But what about woman manipulation? Astrid,
I
help
can't
me
even
out.
say that. Yeah, I won't.
We get the schism backstage at the D'Angelo's, and they ask if they know. And the D'Angelo's say, of course we know. We got all the info. They say, well, where's the creeds? And they go, we don't fucking know where the creeds are. Why would we know where the creeds are? Well, you said you guys know. And we go, yeah, of course. We know lots of things. We know that Tiffany Stratton's going to star in the next Barbie movie. To which I was like, oh, God, now I have to go see the next Barbie movie. I saw the first one. I don't want to see the second one. They also say that Dragon Lee and Wesley are distant cousins. And I'm like, yep, I saw that one coming. It's about time somebody made that joke.
Yeah.
They say that before Metaphor, Oro Mensa was rejected from Cheishu, which I have a feeling is true. I have a feeling it was probably a segment where he was in there and he got kicked out and we just never noticed. And then, of course, we have the fourth one. Tyler Bate doesn't know where he is half the time because, and this is where they step in, the next phrase are going to be because he's too high. But we get the schism stepping in, talk about wanting the tag team championships, and Joe Gacy says, no, stay on focus, stay on mission. And I'm like, wait, what? So the tag team titles aren't good enough for you now? You want to beat up the Creed so badly that you won't just take the tag titles? What the hell's wrong with you?
The titles are backseat to the Creeds at this point.
To people who aren't even on the NXT roster anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I totally said that to make Ed try to say it. Yes. Because I got high. Because I got high. Where's Bobby? Yeah, that definitely would have been that would have been the end of the segment for Bobby. We get Gulak and Dempsey backstage, where they find out that they don't have any opponents for tonight's match, which is fine. They sit here and talk about how soft the locker room is and how nobody's tough enough. Out comes Damon Kemp, who talks about how tough enough he is, which I thought we were going to get Maven because they all kept saying tough enough. And so I really thought Maven was going to come out there.
Oh, gosh.
Because there's nobody else from Tough Enough really left. I mean, Sonya Deville just tore her ACL. Speedy recovery, Sonya Deville. Mandy Rose got fired, so no more Mandy Rose. I'm trying to think.
You got Chelsea. That would have been a good segment.
Sure. We got Chelsea. Is she going to be any entertaining in this segment, though?
Probably.
Anyways, we get JBBJ stepping up, and it's going to be JBBJ versus Drew Gulak and Charlie Dempsey. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, we'll see that match next week. No, we're getting it tonight. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was for next week, too, at first.
We need Nydia back. We do. Nydia would be great. I miss Nydia. For anybody who don't remember that, it's the only time Jamie Noble in his entire career was charismatic or entertaining. And that includes when he was part of J&J Security. We then get Dana yelling at Kelani, projecting all of her fears and insecurities on Kelani, talking about how people are making fun of Kelani. No, people aren't making fun of Kelani. You want to know why? One, she's dating Carmelo Hayes, so people are all jealous of Kelani. And two, the fact that nobody cares about what she's doing in the ring because she's still new and she wasn't wrestling in NXT when Asuka debuted. Think about that. Dana Brooke was
Yeah.
in NXT learning to wrestle when Asuka debuted in
Yeah.
NXT. She
I
then stayed
remember.
for over 600 days because her championship was, 530 something? She didn't win the
Yeah.
title for her first 3 months. And then it was at least 500 and some odd days that Asuka was champion before she lost the title.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that Dana Brooke has been wrestling for so many years and is still as bad as she is and getting critiqued as bad as she is, she's projecting and she's still here learning. No. Now they're trying to teach. She's trying to teach wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Wait.
bad. She tells us that she's going to take on Blair Davenport next week, and I go, can you not? Can you please not? It's going to be a bad match. Which match is going to be better? Kelani Jordan versus Blair Davenport or Dana Brooke versus Blair Davenport?
Well, Kelani for sure. Sorry, Dana. It's
At this point, we get Kiana James from accounting versus Ivy Nile. And this was a good match.
yeah.
It had a decent amount of time. It didn't feel short, at least. It felt like it got time. There was no commercial breaks in between the match. Match just kind of flowed. Kiana looked okay in the match. Ivy looked really good in this match. Ivy misses a big kick, but I think it was more that Kiana was backing away and getting out of the way than she. Because Kiana didn't really she stumbled back and out of the ring, but she didn't stumble back out of the ring like she got kicked. It seemed like it was more of I avoided it and stumbled back kind of thing. So that was not that bad. Halfway through the match, we get the schism comes down and all the yellow masks surround the ring, and we get a lumberjill match, sort of, kind of, in a way,
Yeah.
with all the people in the yellow masks pounding the mat. And if I wasn't wrong, were they pounding the mat and the crowd was chanting creeds at the same wavelength? So as they're pounding the mat, they were going creeds, creeds.
I
Or was it
think
just
so, yeah. No.
either way? The match ends when Ivy Nile gets caught up as she's got her submission hold on, and Ava grabs her ankle, to which it distracts Ivy Nile, to which it goes ahead and allows Kiana James to go ahead and hit one of the weirdest finishers I've ever seen. Is there any what does it do? I'm still trying to figure out what it does that makes it a finisher, because it doesn't look like it does anything.
I have no idea about that one. The only thing that made me think about this match, though, is that before, when Kiana's making her entrance, they do have a pre-taped video in the corner from her, and she's talking about Gigi failed to show my past, and I was like, I thought we were past this already. Why is it still happening? I feel like we haven't seen Gigi. It feels like forever at this point. I know it hasn't been, but it feels that way. But just I thought this was over, and then it just kept happening. And you're muted, by the way. There. Oh my God! I try to help you.
Saying that it was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the fact that we didn't see Gigi right now, because Gigi's character right now is not worth being on TV.
I'm glad you said it.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not. I'm just glad to hear it from you, though.
As our friend Bobby Fish would say, "Where's the lie?" We have Barry Monkey jumping in saying, "I thought both in this match were good. One of the best NXT women's matches I've seen in a good while." It wasn't bad. It was good. It didn't eat up a lot of television time. But again, the NXT women had a bit of focus tonight. We had two matches that had nothing to do with the championship. Just two women's matches. We had the champion in a short promo segment that honestly should have been a little longer. But we have segments and things going on in this women's division that have nothing to do with the championship and have nothing to do with that. Other stories going on where you don't need Tiffany there every week pushing a story or having a 5-minute segment to go ahead and push her next title defense. That's a good thing for a women's division, I think. Now, is it equal? No, they didn't get equal time. They didn't get nearly equal time.
Mm-hmm.
But I will continue to say this. I think NXT does a very good job of putting its women's out there. So at least we know hey, look, people, we have women wrestlers. They're doing things. Lyra Valkyria is now in 2 segments tonight with the women's world champion on Raw. Like, we have things going on with these women. So while maybe not equal, there's at least things going on, and the women are getting stories, which is more than most other companies can say. It's a positive.
More than Raw.
Well, no. Rhea Ripley had 3 segments last night.
Raw had 1 match yesterday. 1 women's match.
But Rhea Ripley, they had a segment backstage with Raquel Rodriguez where she was backstage being told she couldn't wrestle, and you had getting consoled by the Way, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. And then when Rhea came out for the main event, she got attacked by Raquel, Candice, and
but still, Indy. 1 match in 3 hours, though.
1 match in 3 hours, but they had multiple segments. They had multiple other segments.
I know. That's a little better, but still 1 match in 3 hours. That's not great.
No, but it's Raw. It's never good.
I know that.
That's why I don't watch Raw. That's why I watch the Raw watch-along, because at least they're entertaining.
That's why I keep it in the background when I write about it.
But again, but that's what I'm saying. It's why I like NXT, because there's constant... I know Raw was pretty good last night. I agree. I was on there for the main event. It was fun. But they need to do a better job in 3 hours of telling more women's stories.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, they do. I think people take the wrestling match and they say if there's not enough women's wrestling matches, that it's not enough. But I'm like, the women were heavily focused on, because you had the Becky and the Shayna stuff that went on both pre-match and post-match last night, in between that 1 match, not to mention all the stuff around Rhea. Like, they were focusing on multiple women's stories, not to mention next week, I'm assuming your main event has to be, with the backlash you've gotten, it has to be Trish versus Becky, right? You have to main event with Trish and Becky next week, right?
I'm not even keeping my hopes up at this point. But still, my point is that if you think about it, if you were to add up the time between backstage, everything involving the women in NXT, anything that the women are involved in tonight, in any way, shape, or form, matches, segments, interviews, whatever, versus the 3 hours of Raw, it's still NXT will have more time with the women than Raw does in a 3-hour show.
Yes.
And that's embarrassing in a way to say, though, as well.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think part of that is part of it is that there are so many people with their hands in the cookie jar on Monday nights and on Friday nights, whereas NXT gets to kind of do what they want, and they have less hands in the cookie jar because of and I'm not even saying Vince McMahon. I'm saying there are so many writers and so many producers and so many people having agendas with the shows on Monday nights that you can only do so much. Like you say, 3 hours is so much to do. But they have to accomplish so much and maintain a certain level. And they should be able to do that with women's segments too. But NXT gets to fly under the radar a little bit, so they get to have more of that.
And another thing that I thought about too, which is part of the aspect that I'm adding in my piece as well. You called up a few women, like what happened to Casey Square? We see them like once every month or so. And then we have Alba and Isla that just lost the titles and they just disappeared. I know they've probably been on main event because I've seen clips of them in main event, but still just like, I know there's a lot of the women are injured, a lot of them are pregnant as well, but you still have a few women that are there on a weekly basis not being featured. And it just, where's the balance there? I know it's not going to be equal because you have obviously more guys than girls, but it's still, they deserve at least a decent amount of time in a 3-hour show, and they still don't get that, which is the part that I won't say much because I'm putting it in writing, but it'll be out soon.
No, I agree. And you're more than welcome to say some of the things that you want here. I mean,
but if I'm writing it, I might as well check out the writing.
Well, there's that too. I'm just saying that as much of a proponent as women's wrestling as I am, I think that a lot of times people get hung up on, because there's like people who break down how much women's wrestling are on each show. And they're like, well, look, these are how many minutes they spent wrestling. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not talking about how many segments there were. That's because there are some nights where NXT does more segments about the women than they do matches about the women. And they may not have a single women's match on the show, but they might have 5 different segments with the women throughout the show. giving them 10, 15 minutes of the show. And that might as well be as good as a match. Because at least they're on TV and they're part of the storyline. Like tonight, the women were so important on the show tonight that bringing down Rey Mysterio, other than having him at ringside for the main event, his only other job the entire night was to put over Roxanne Perez and Tia Hale. Think about that. The entire thing that they did with Rey Mysterio tonight on there is to put over Tia Hale and Roxanne Perez, to put them on camera with him. You could have put him on camera with Carmelo Hayes, with Trick Williams, with Wes Lee, all these other talented men. No. They chose two talented women to get that rub from Rey Mysterio. Came out wrong, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. You get the rub from Rey Mysterio for Roxanne.
You get that screen time with Rey Mysterio. Let's put it that way.
But in the wrestling term, it's a rub.
I know, but it sounds better.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that's you'll never see that in a figure with women's wrestling times or things like that. But that's vital. Like Rhea Ripley spending time dealing with Lyra Valkyria is important to women's wrestling. Because as much as we don't like Lyra Valkyria, it's them investing time with Rhea Ripley to put an eye on Lyra Valkyria. You're putting eyes on these talents by using big names to give them credibility. You know what you used to do with that with? The Undertaker. There was a segment that, and John Cena famously talked about it, where John Cena, after he has his match with Kurt Angle, he's getting congratulations from everybody. And there was a conversation out back where Undertaker asked Vince and Bruce Pritchard, do you want me to go shake his hand? Why would you do that? It'll get the kid over. And like, all right, if you feel like it, you go do it. And Undertaker walked over there and shook his hand and asked him his name. That's the same thing we got tonight with Tia Hale. Rey Mysterio telling her that she can be a potential champion. Having Rey Mysterio there with Roxanne Perez. Putting over those young talents with a star like Rey Mysterio. That's the kind of things that you do. Yeah, and as Perry says, to get that interaction that improves their position. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to put.
Okay. Yeah, Casey squared Unholy Union for a feud over the tag titles needs to happen. I agree. I don't like seeing Casey squared. I'll huss and fuss about seeing Casey squared on my TV.
And it's not only
those women, those two women's tag teams, they're the only ones you got on Raw right now.
Yeah.
With Raquel and Liv sort of kind of tied up with Rhea, you have no other women's tag teams other than Casey squared and the Unholy Union.
Yeah. That's another thing. It's just the fact that I feel like they called up a few ladies and then they brought up so many ladies and then I'm not saying they have to use every one of them because it's with the time frame. I feel like of the call-ups so far, the one that's been the most successful out of the recent ones has been Zoe because she's been used properly every single week, whether she's wrestling or in a promo interview, whatever. She's the only one that has been consistent since debuting on the main roster. So it's like that's something that I would like to see every now and then with some of the other girls too. And it's just like Parrish said in the other part of the comment, and it's like they need the opportunity, to show that they can improve and everything. And just like you don't get that. And it was like before Raw this week, the last time we saw Candice and Indy was for that match that were there for like not even 5 minutes because they got eliminated by Chelsea and Sonya, I believe it was, for the Now Contenders match. So just like, and then before that, when was the last time we saw him before that as well? And it's just like, what's been happening? Nothing on that end, at least. And it's just sad because I'm like, Candace is already somebody that is so talented. She not only for herself, but she can put over the younger ladies. And we see her having a brawl with Rhea after not seeing her for a few weeks.
Yep. And Barrett brings up an interesting comment. And I'll say that the comment, I disagree with the comment only because if a company can't do one, they can't have the second. And then I'll put up the comment. I look at how many men's titles there are, and I see how many women's titles at all, and it says it all for me. Here's the thing. The men's titles, you have to have more of them because you need to have something for people to fight over. You need to have something for people to tell stories about. You can only tell so many non-championship stories at the same time with 40 people. When you have a women's division of 5 to 7 people on a roster. You can't have 4 championships for those 3, 2 champions. I don't even think you can have 2 championships on the same show for those women, because you need to be able to tell non-title stories and championship stories. And Raw and SmackDown can't do either at the moment. So, whereas by NXT, I feel like you could have an NXT Intercontinental or a Women's North American Championship on NXT, because I feel they do enough. They tell enough female stories, women's wrestling stories, that you can have a feud with Tiffany Stratton, a feud with, say, Tia Hale as your North American Women's Champion, and then tell other stories. I mean, hell, Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson were a big part of the next segment we're going to talk about, where Tyler Bate is backstage with his cup, and Metaphor wants the cup back. The 2 people doing 90% of the talking in that segment are Lash and Jakara. Talking about how much the cup means to Noam and how you need to give the cup back to Noam. And then Noam's like, I need the cup back. It's my cup, yada, yada. He's like, and then Nathan comes in and he's like, look, here's how we settle this. If you tell us that's not the real cup, you can have it back. And he can't do it. But he does give the proper lineage in saying that that's the cup that I held that Mensa lost. And this is the cup that I want. And which is where they get the match that we're now going to have Nathan Frazier versus Noam Dar for the Heritage Cup. And it sounds like waiting in the wings is Tyler Bate, who is promised, and Nathan's like, yeah, I owe you one. We got Chris Parrish saying, and sometimes you're just going to have to let the talent do their thing and succeed on their own accord, learn to fly or fail on their own. Talent should always have that chance. Wholeheartedly agree. And then he also says, going about this segment, but there's side pieces to Noam who's the focus, and sometimes you need to switch the focus. I agree. I would love to see a Jakara Jackson the main focus of anything. I will never say the Lash Legend to be the main focus of anything.
Plus, I'm like, one thing during the press conference too, when they were mentioned, it's like, oh yeah, we want to go for the titles. It's like, oh, our names are mentioned when Raquel and Liv won them. It's like, yeah, we want to go against this team, and like they name a few teams. They're like, our options are endless, and I was like, no, they're not.
No,
that's first. I was like, you have a limited amount of people, but they mentioned Jakara and Lash, and I was like, that would have been something interesting to see. And just like one thing, and this is like one thing that I mentioned in my writing too. This is before Sonia's injury. Before the injury happened, there was no setup for who the next contenders were going to be either. So that's another thing too. And it was like, I feel like they take a while, and we don't have, like, for Rhea as well. It's just that part of, like, it kind of supposed to be Rhea and Raquel, but then they injure Raquel. So technically she still doesn't have a contender for her title, because, Raquel's not the official number 1 contender either. So it's like you have Rhea as a champion, and then technically you had Chelsea and Sonia as champions with nobody to really go against them yet, because it hasn't been stated on screen or off screen in any way, shape, or form. So that's another thing to it. I was like, at least with NXT, you can kind of see that something's happening, because, like we said earlier, during commentary, they kept mentioning, oh, this person's victory will probably put them in the number 1 contender kind of spot. Because even though we don't know who it is, they're kind of teasing that it could be any one of them, of these ladies. But on screen, on Raw and SmackDown, we don't get that for them. Of even kind of giving us like a clue as if, oh, these could be the next ones. Like, we don't have anything built in that shoulder way either. So that's the other part that I think is also interesting with the timing.
Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on.
Close enough.
It's as close as we're ever going to get to a rant from Astrid.
That's true.
She doesn't get angry, people. She doesn't get angry. She only gets angry when I tell her that I'm going to replace her with somebody new. We skipped a segment here where I skipped the text segment between Los Lotharios, which I thought was fantastic. You have this great, like, back and forth text exchange where Humberto apologizes for what he said. And he's like, I get it, but, I wish you wouldn't have, walked out on me like that. And they go back and forth, and it's great. And he's like, grandfather wouldn't be pleased. He's like, why do you keep bringing up grandfather? And it makes you remember that not only are these guys Los Lotharios, but they're from a wrestling lineage. They're not only are they cousins in the Los Lotharios, it's Angel Garza's dad is Hector Garza from WCW. Their father, Hector's father, is the grandfather they're talking about, who was a professional wrestler before Hector was, and apparently was a champion because he had a nice looking championship belt on in the picture that they both had. But I love how the fact that grandfather would be disappointed in us, Humberto says. And Angel goes, we should be making him happy and like honoring him as opposed to making him unhappy. And it sounds like we're going to get him back and forth into a nice little back into a good spot. And I'm like, that's great. Because again, it brings more Latino talent on television, which is nice. But it dealt with the inner emotions that they're feeling. And it's giving them character development without having them anywhere near a wrestling ring.
Yeah, because I think for them, it's another thing that I know. Obviously, everybody sees them as a tag team, but I think people forget that they're actually are like real life cousins. And I was like, it reminds me of like wrestling has more than one royal family. Yes, they do. So that's another thing too. It's just like I think people forget that they're cousins. So it's like I think it's something that kind of should be brought up more in that sort of way to give us that connection between them too. It's like they're family, so they're not only they're connected like in the ring, but like outside of it as well because they grew up with this. So it's like I want that to get highlighted more often. It's like I bet people forget that they're actually cousins.
So like you have the royal families, like you have the Rhodes, the McMahons, the Anawahi, the Guerreros. Those are your royal families of wrestling, and that those are your kings and your queens. And then you have, your dukes and duchesses might be the guard. I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and put the Gardas on the same level as the Flairs
I know.
and the Rhodes. Like, come on.
I know, yeah.
So Barry brings up, it looked like a segment on a TV show aimed at teenage girls. Just because it involves texting doesn't mean it's teenage girls. I loved the idea that these guys can't talk to each other. They can't talk about that emotion. So it has to be via like text, and it's a back and forth thing. And like even at one point you see Humberto like hesitant about sending the text. It's being like, is this exactly what I want to say? Like dealing with emotions is an important thing. And as guys, we don't typically do it well. So to see this back and forth where they're dealing with their emotions and they're dealing with their problems and their family stuff, it was nice to see. Is text the best medium for it? Probably not. But it made for an interesting television product where you kind of got that nice back and forth, especially for two guys whose English isn't their first language. So it made it a nice little back and forth where all they had to do was pretend to text things. And they tell the people who are writing it in Spanish maybe what they want to talk about and how they want to portray it. And then it gets translated properly to the English language. Like they can both speak. Like don't get me wrong. They can't. It's not like they can't talk. But
it basically like myself is not the native language, to put it like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like English isn't their first language. They're probably more comfortable talking in Spanish than they are in English. And if his promo's in Spanish, it's a lot worse than. Don't get me, it's a lot worse for the audience because 90% of the audience won't understand and won't read the subtitles. Whereas if there's no audio, the people would rather just read the English to see what's going on. And there is a slight difference there. Real?
No.
Okay, real? No. I'm a real adult, and I almost never call people.
No.
I feel like me and Astrid talk almost every day.
Yeah.
We talk through this show, and maybe once a month outside of this show, do we talk like face-to-face audio-wise. Everything else is through text.
Yeah.
It's like comparing English to buttons.
Oh, we do a little huddles on Slack. That's another thing we do too.
That's what I'm saying. That's the only time we talk is, or when Astrid's at work and she can't type and she just voice messages me.
Yeah.
But again, I respond in text.
Yeah.
Like I don't respond in other voice messages. So it's a. But we then get, if I remember correctly, what is the next segment, Astrid?
Okay.
Tiffany Stratton, right?
No, but after the exchanges, so we had the metaphor thing. I like the part where Nathan goes about the Spider-Man meme, and he looks at the camera while he's talking about it too, which is funny. No, then we get Dragon Lee and Rey getting ready to come to the match, and Dom and Rhea are shown backstage too. But then before the match happens, so we get Tiffany. And this interview, it wasn't what I hoped it would be. Because again, like we said, we only saw her on a TikTok last week. So I was thinking this will be like a good way to set up whatever was coming next for her. And even she gets interviewed, I think it was by Mackenzie. She goes, "What's next for you?" She said, "Well, I won the match, so I splurged on my stuff and I bought this, and everything was pink because pink is so in right now." I'm like, yeah, I wonder why. And then it was all about her clothing. Oh, I bought something that was blue, but I don't know what to match it with. And it's like everything was about clothes, and I was like, this is not what I wanted my champion to say. Come on, just like I wanted her to give a little something, like talk about Thea once more, and then move on to like, yeah, let's see who I'll face next. Because I still don't know, kind of thing, and it just not happened. So I didn't like it. Sorry.
I liked it because it's entirely in character.
Yeah, that's the only
If
thing.
this were anybody else, it would be out of character. It wouldn't make sense and it'd be bad. But for
Yeah.
this character, this makes perfect sense for she doesn't care about wrestling and challenging somebody else challenging for her. She could care less about any of that. For her, it's all about, well, I won the match and now I get to go buy some cool clothes and I get to do this and I get to, like, that's the kind of things that Tiffany cares about. So that's the kind of things that she does when she cuts her promo. And then she's asked, who are you going to challenge next? Who's going to challenge you next? And she goes, nobody, bye. And she's just gone. I loved it. I thought it was great. To go on about real adults too. Real adults sit with a quill and parchment, write a formal letter, and give it to a young street urchin runner to deliver.
Wow.
To remind us that we don't live in the world that Barry lives in, where street urchins still exist in the UK. No, I'm just kidding. And the United States and the UK and Puerto Rico are all entirely different places, aren't they, Astrid?
Very. And then after this, was when we had Trick outside, and then Wes is pulling up in his car. He's like, tell Carmelo I'm going for him after I deal with Dijak. He's like, you tell him yourself. He's like, I will. And then he just keeps going. I was like, okay, then what was the point if you're gonna tell him yourself? And then when he just turns around, he's met with Damon and Gulak and Dempsey. And they have a back and forth, and he calls them an Oompa Loompa. And he says, yeah, and Charlie in the Checker Factory, like, if I'm going to get advice from people, it's not going to be from you. And then he just leaves, and then Miles arrives right next to Gulak, and he goes, you're late. Like, you shouldn't have been late. And I feel bad for Miles, because I'm like, he obviously, like, Gulak has to look at him while he's talking to him so he can read his lips. But, yeah, it's interesting now seeing Miles in the fold, and, like, with this little group now all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's nice to see Miles Bourne out there. And then we get the main event. Dirty Dom Mysterio with Rhea Ripley versus Dragon Lee with Rey Mysterio in the corner, and it was fantastic. It was every thought we thought it would be. Dominic Mysterio was fantastic. Booker T was an absolute nightmare on commentary, and Vic Joseph spent half the match trying to explain to Booker T that Dominic Mysterio cheats to win, and Booker just doesn't seem to understand anything. But no, it's a great match. Dragon Lee has a fantastic outing. And Rhea tries her hardest not to cheat, not to get involved. There's a couple times when she wanted to, but she didn't, and Dom almost lost. And you could see she's learning from the Paul Heyman school of being able to react on the outside of the ring. I think she's been watching those Bloodline matches to watch Paul Heyman, because she's starting to learn from him with the facials that she gives on the outside of the ring.
Yeah, she was like,
as Dominic's wrestling. But at the end of the day, she goes ahead and uses the Women's World Championship, the same belt that won Dom his title, to go ahead and retain it here against Dragon Lee. And Dominic Mysterio retains. And after the match, Rey's in the face of Dominic, and Rhea gets in between the two of them. And Rhea's picking on Dom because she knows Dom won't hit her back. And all of a sudden, Lyra Valkyria comes in from behind and absolutely blasts Rhea Ripley. She drops her title. They brawl for a little bit. Dom and Dragon Lee brawl. And it looks like we're getting a heat wave, a tag team match between Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio against Lyra Valkyria and Dragon Lee. And great. You know what? At least Dragon Lee's going to get 2 big wins on PLE type shows. Because there's no way they have Dragon Lee lose that match.
That's true.
Barry Munga says, it's strange to think that useless idiot from a year ago is now the greatest heel in wrestling. It really is. Dominic Mysterio is doing such a good job. And his in-ring stuff is getting so much better. Like, as an in-ring talent, he is doing fantastic work in the ring. I'm so excited to see what he continues to do. It's really, really good. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And we couldn't be happier to see him attempting to do his best. I just want to go ahead and shout it out because I didn't have the Twitch back end and our thing doesn't say it. Thank you, Corey MLB, for going ahead and subscribing with your Amazon Prime to the Ol'Ed channel. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. But we're pretty much done with the show, so we're going to go ahead and play you what comes next the rest of the week from Ol'Ed, and then we'll be back to tell you where you can find us later this week. Back. And Astrid, where can we find you?
I like how it says X on it now. You can find me on Blue Sky on Twitter as Astrid Pizarro, and then Threads and Instagram at Astrid Pizarro 20. Hopefully this weekend you'll get my new piece from Body Slam and my NXT review for Women's Wrestling Talk. Yeah, and then if you haven't yet, Ladies Fashion Showcase, we did it this past week. It's on my YouTube channel. We talk about, but we talked about a little bit here again, the hashtag that we want equality, hashtag that we women deserve better, discussing that. And it might be who, and also kind of predicting, I would say maybe, who we want to answer Deonna Purrazzo's challenge at Multiverse United that's happening soon too.
You can find me on the X at EdFries12584. I don't need no Blue Sky. You can't find me on Instagram or Threads because I already got a nice little shirt right here. You don't need that. You can find me on Twitch for my gaming content at EdFries2002. You can find me every Tuesday night here with Astrid Pizarro as we talk all things NXT. We got Heatwave coming up in 2 weeks, in about a month or so. We've got No Mercy coming up. We've got a great guest lined up for the pre-show, and we even have a guest lined up for the post-show. So go ahead and definitely check that out as we got it going on. Remember that you can always go ahead and get your energy boost if you want energy like me and like Astrid by going to wwenxt.com and using the promo code OLEPODS to get 10% off your order. Otherwise, you can go ahead and just scan that QR code and go straight there and use the promo code when you get to the cart. OLE Pods, it gives you 10% off your order. All flavors are pretty much back in stock right now. You got your Rocket Pop, you got your Blue Raspberry. Those are one of Parrish's favorites. My favorite is 1, 2, 3 Watermelon. You can go ahead and get the Blood Orange. That's Mel's favorite. All kinds of good stuff there at rogueenergy.com. Use the promo code OLEPODS to get 10% off your order. It's fantastic stuff. Definitely go check it out. You can also find our local establishment at all these wonderful places. Ole Podcasts, and most of them are local establishment on the other places. We are a fantastic group of people that have all kinds of great shows, so make sure that you're checking out all kinds of great content. But we're going to go ahead and do a raid. Parrish, who are we raiding to? Parrish.
Parrish.
We're going to go ahead and raid. Okay, we are. I wanted to make sure I get confirmation, so I didn't see any confirmation on that. We're going to go ahead and raid Tia Trinidad. So all of you people go see Selena Vega, Tia Trinidad, and go ahead and send her love and wonderful, wonderful messages from us. And we will see you guys next week. Goodbye.